I'm Carlos. That's Jay. We are driving a Dodge Viper because we haven't done enough of that already.
Yeah, you had a little bit of a road trip, right? It was about 2,700 miles.
2,700 miles, but you did 3,100, 3,200?
3,100 something, yeah.
So you are the man amongst us. And we know
I
you're
can't
the man.
feel my butt or my back anymore.
So what we did is I drove this car. This is Edmunds' long-term Dodge Viper. I drove this basically across the country, coast to coast, to North Carolina. And then Jay flew out and drove it back. Now we're back in Santa Monica. We're gonna take a little cruise in this car and talk about things we like, things we didn't like.
Of all of the Viper's road trip friendly qualities, which one was the one that convinced you to take this on this trip?
Scott saying, hey, you should take the Viper out to North Carolina.
That's the best road trip quality, yeah.
that was the quality. No, I mean, okay. There's the worse an idea is, the more you kind of want to do it, right? Bad ideas have a certain appeal. And driving a Viper across the country is a bad idea. Like, visibility's so bad, it's so hot, it's uncomfortable and all that. But like, you kind of want to do it because it's a bad idea.
Especially, I mean, a car that's this ridiculous. In
Yes.
fact, when you tell people you drove cross country in a Viper, they're like, oh, that's so awesome. And you're like, well, when you actually do it, you realize that maybe it's less awesome, but that makes it more awesome.
Exactly. I've always been kind of hesitant about the Viper, but after that drive, I kind of was like, all right, I get it. Like, I kind of get where it's coming from now. It's a bit much, but like, if that's what you're looking for, like if you want like the sort of the feel of a Lamborghini, but with an American car.
A bit much, I think, is understating it, but a bit much is kind of what defines this car.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
The car is so over the top and obnoxious, but if it was not over the top and obnoxious, it wouldn't be a Viper.
Exactly. That's what makes it the Viper. There is no driving experience like this anymore. You don't really hop into a new car these days and deal with the sort of stuff you can deal in here.
Well, for sure, even just getting in the car. I mean,
Yeah.
This is probably one of the most, aside from like a Lowe's Elise or something like that, ingress and egress, not a strong point. I mean, you really got to fold your legs up to your chin to get into the thing, especially if you're over 6 feet tall.
Yeah, I kind of do it like a diver goes into the water, where I just sort of sit on this door
hold your
sill.
nose?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I sit on the door sill and just lean back and fall into the seat. This is a fantastic shifter.
The shifter's great.
You know when you're actually controlling a rod inside a transmission that's actually moving mechanical stuff?
And even
That's
though
a
it's
good
controlling 9 billion foot-pounds of torque, it actually moves through the gates with some
Yeah.
finesse, and you'll never miss a shift in this car, ever.
I miss shifts in Corvettes constantly, especially the 2.3, but you never do it in here because this has so much like positive feedback between gears. There's never vagueness or anything in it. It's a terrific shifter. And even this engine, I guess the most surprising thing about this V10 is that it isn't like a low-end torque monster. You know, it has a lot of low-end torque, but it really comes alive in the high RPMs.
Yeah, when you wind this thing out to 5,000, 5,500, I mean, it feels like it's getting a second wind, like VTEC kicks in, you know.
It feels like it's getting on cam.
Yeah,
Like it
well, it
feels
kind
like
of
there's a
is.
big cam in there.
Yeah.
It's just,
there's a
"Robot!"
very, very big cam in here.
But the top end response out of this thing is really surprising, and it adds to like the drama of driving this thing hard. Because when you're wide open throttle at like 4,000 RPM in any gear, it's an event. And then when it gets more thrilling and the acceleration force gets even crazier, like as the motor revs, as the speeds keep jumping up, it's more of like a, oh, whoa, okay.
And the speed just piles on so much. I mean,
my God.
The gearing is so tall in this that if you're hammering through third gear, you need to be on a racetrack.
Yes.
Because you're going so
going
ridiculously
so
fast.
This car gets a lot of positive attention, by the way. Like, nobody hates this car.
I really feel like it's kind of, this is a thing that binds our country together. I honestly believe that because
the Viper is the glue of this
really
country.
It's the fabric of our nation, and you get to drive it, and it has side pipes.
Yes, it has side pipes.
It definitely has side pipes.
Side pipes are awesome.
Because no matter where you go with this car, a gas station in Kentucky or a restaurant in Tennessee, if anyone sees it, they're going to talk to you, but it's not going to be in an ostentatious way.
Yes.
It's always very positive.
Yeah.
Everyone's super stoked about this car. The Viper is the universal American thing.
You've made a choice when you buy this car to do something manly. It's like buying that Hummer over there, or it's like buying Lamborghini LM002. You're not buying it because it's a plush, nice experience. You're buying it because there is some intimidation to it. There is some not some. That's all the car is just like in-your-face manliness constantly.
One thing about this engine is it's kind of the worst sounding engine that exists, It sounds terrible, but it has so much horsepower and so much torque that you kind of don't care.
It does. The timbre is terrible, but there is a certain character. Like, it is so gruff and it is so ugly sounding that you're almost kind of like, okay.
It's like getting punched in the ear by a kangaroo. Repeatedly.
You're dealing with such a monstrous amount of torque. What is it, 640 horse? And I mean, it's pound-foot 600, somewhere around there. Like, that's an immense amount of power. You have so much drive train, like underneath here, and you have so much tire that you don't want to shock that stuff. You want to meter that out very carefully.
I just feel like the throttle response is a little bit blunt and
Yes.
dull. And part of that's the gearing, too. This thing is crazy tall geared. You start off in first gear, and the first time you drive this car, I think everyone would check and make sure, am I in third? It feels like I'm in third because the way it's pulling out of the hole. This is third gear, right? No, it's first. It's that tall.
The clutch feel is slightly different.
When you say different, you mean there's less of it.
There's certainly less clutch on this. I tested this car last week, and I may have let some anger out on the tires while trying to do the slalom in it.
Hey, if you're going to be angry in a car,
This is one of those cars that lets out anger on its tires like nothing else. This make a lot of smoke in rapid fashion, and at very high speeds.
that's true. Yeah, I mean, it's got so much torque.
The handling balance is interesting. This is a you get aside the roughness, you get aside the intimidation. This is a nicely balanced car. I mean, it's pretty neutral at the limit. There's a little bit of stability in the nose, which you kind of want with like a high power, rear weight. Actually, this is 50-50 weight distribution. But you want with a high power, like front engine, rear drive car, you kind of want a little bit of stability in the nose. And this has that, but it really has a nice balance off throttle that really helps you control the car around. The grip is really nice, and it's kind of frustrating to talk about it when we're just driving through Malibu and there's stopped traffic everywhere.
If you want to exercise this car, there's no possible way to do it on a public road. You just can't do it without being completely antisocial.
Going to jail.
And/or. So yeah, you definitely need a racetrack for this thing.
You don't want to be surrounded by other cars when you're driving this thing fast. Unless you have a lot of familiarity with where the car is, how big it is, and you want to be able to trust this car's location. I think that comes with driving it a lot.
For sure.
That's it. I drove it like a wimp across the country. I put it in 6th gear, cruise control, and then tried to zen out all the road noise.
With that many miles, I mean, the likelihood of something going wrong with the law enforcement types is very high. I mean, you're operating in a target-rich environment here.
Back at those gas stations, everybody was asked like, "Oh, so you must be making good time, huh?" I'm like, "Nope, making really, average time.
Making Camry time.
Not making good time at all." I tell you what, though, freeway on-ramps and off-ramps, lots of fun.
Now, you also had an experience with wind noise that I don't think I experienced.
So the windows don't seem to seal properly. It's a hand-built car, right? So I bought some yellow painter's tape and added some extra tape to the top of the window, they're frameless windows, so it would seal a bit better, and that seemed to solve it. But this car on long-distance driving, which again is not what this car is meant to do, it's kind of unfair to criticize this car for doing bad things during long distance drives.
Just an observation.
Just an observation.
Not a criticism. I couldn't hang with the door rattle. So for a little bit of background, when this car was delivered, or shortly after it was delivered, we observed a very prominent rattle that came out of the door. It sounded kind of like a handful of change in a dryer.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's about 18 inches from the driver's left ear. And it's constant. So when you're driving on the road, it's not as though it jingles when you hit a bump. It's jingling all the time.
Yep.
All the time. This guy, bless his heart, drove all the way across this great nation, and it's big, with that rattle going in the door. I got in the car, and after an hour and a half, I was tearing my hair out. So what I did, I stopped in Knoxville at my friend Zach's house, and Zach has tools and a garage.
And we are men.
And we took apart the door panel, and we found what was wrong, and it was a missing fastener on an exposed stud. And we picked up, something off the garage floor that fit, and it was an eye-lock nut. Put it down, buttoned up the door, no more rattle.
Perfect. That's the Viper experience.
It really is. And of course, I broke a bunch of door clips in the process. I noticed that you had some microfiber towels. What was that about on your trip? In the car. And it's not to wipe it down. We did not clean this car at all for the entire trip.
So these armrests are fine for less than 4 hours, but after 4 hours, when you've got your two hands on the wheel and you're resting your elbows on the armrest, like it actually hurt. And I have like a pretty good tolerance for pain. And after a while, I was like, I can't do this anymore. So when I bought the tape, I also bought some microfiber towels that I taped to the armrest to help soften them up a little bit, and I feel like it helped. I feel like it made the drive a little bit more tolerable.
So you have sissy armrest or elbows?
I'm a sissy. That's what it is. I'm a giant sissy. That's how everybody's gonna take that. This is not that big of a car, like, surprisingly.
It's really not. When you park it next to like an SUV or something, the thing is completely dwarfed.
Exactly. I think like this. I think a 911, a modern 911, is longer, I would imagine.
I think so. But the proportions, I mean, it looks so dramatic,
God.
and this is probably one of the best looking cars on the road, honestly.
It looks
like, it's so
awesome.
good.
It looks so
cool.
good. And that's what's great. As not being a professional photographer or even a good photographer, the strategy for taking good photos with a Viper, like on a road trip, is just put it in front of anything. You know, this is the last naturally aspirated American supercar.
Probably so.
You know, think about it.
You heard
Everybody's
here
going
first.
forced induction. Everybody's going turbo. Everybody's dropping displacement. Like, this is one of a dying breed.
It really is. Yeah.
And I really respect it for that. This is a nice interior. In terms of materials, in terms of like the interface, I like the digital display. This is a really attractive place to be. And especially with some of the higher end leather packages. When you get to like the GTS interior package with the Laguna leather, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, nice
it's
looking.
Gorgeous.
But I'm trying to remember the previous gen seats. Were they pretty?
I don't remember
want to
them
say
being
they were
terrific.
overstuffed, but I don't really remember.
How can you? That makes me laugh every time. This is the best Viper they've ever done. I think that's without a doubt an easy thing to say.
For
You know,
sure,
this
yeah.
is way more refined than previous. It's faster, better performing, and all that. What would you like them to change?
I mean, that's a really good question. Is where does the Viper go from here?
Exactly.
Everyone's going to a forced induction setup. Can
Yes.
you do a forced induction engine in a Viper and have it still be a Viper? Or must it have a V10? Is that the defining characteristic of a Viper? I mean, I think that's a tough question. I wouldn't want to be the guy making that call because it's not easy.
I want to drive this through like all the nice parts of LA, because you see 911s in LA, you see every sports car you can imagine in LA. You don't see Vipers in LA. This is one of the more unique things you can buy for $100 grand, which is what you're getting for that money is pretty incredible. I mean, this is faster than the comparable 911, comparable Corvette. I would not be surprised if this put down better lap times with a skilled driver at the helm.
It's so capable that to extract the most out of it, yeah, you really got to be on your game. Is there a more badass car than a Viper? In terms of
if you put wheels,
just still badassery,
could we put tires on a Saturn V?
that'd be close. Yeah, I think so.
Close. It wouldn't be there. It'd be close.
Almost there.
I think the rocket that took us to the moon. It'd be close.
One thing also, you mentioned the ACR and the splitter and the wing and
Yes.
all the aero. I didn't scrape the nose as much
Isn't
as I
that
thought.
crazy?
I thought I was going to be scraping the nose everywhere, and I think I maybe scraped it once. I don't know how that's possible because it certainly looks low. Yeah, there it is.
And back to Edmunds.com. It's been good.
Well, it's going to get dark in here soon, so I don't know if you're going to see us, but hope
Thanks
you
for
enjoy.
driving with me.
Yeah, thank you.